Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Ad Astra Kansas Money Talks podcast. I'm Joe Bluebob, joined by Mark Johnson and Bob Schwartz. And they are the two brains behind Schwartz Investment Partners. And if you want to learn more about what they do or how they might be able to help you, you can find them online at schwartzinvestmentpartners.com. They have offices in Victoria, Kansas, as well as Silver Lake, Kansas. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we'd love it if you would subscribe and give us a thumbs up. And then, of course, wherever you get your podcast, if you could subscribe, give us a comment, whatever you feel like that you need to do, we would appreciate it. So without further ado, we'll talk a little bit about our topic today. And we're going to talk about some common financial mistakes that people make, well, all the time, but we're going to specifically talk about here in 2026. Mark, as I normally do, I'll start with you. And I think that there's a concept that the times are tough right now, or people think maybe times are tough right now, but the reality is people are, for the most part, are probably doing okay, but they continue to make some financial mistakes along the way that can compound maybe some of the financial problems that they're having.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about kind of 5 things that, we see that are common, especially in today's age. So that first one being just sitting on too much cash. Right now, I can't tell you how many times we hear people like, well, I have this much sitting in my, checking account and this much sitting in my savings account bearing no interest. That is how inflation kills you. Yeah.
Well, Bob, you've been doing this for 50 years. I'm going to guess that you have a lot of clients that walk in and say, this is what makes me feel comfortable.
Yep.
Yeah, right. We're very, that's very important, that we are cognizant of what a client needs to have to be comfortable. But we sat down all the time, and there's going to be folks watching this that go, yeah, what's the big deal? But they'll be sitting on $60,000 in their checking account and $120,000 in savings. And we'll say, what's that making you? 0.4% or 0 in our checking account. And that's just getting ate up. That's, you can put that to work, and my goodness, if you just go do a little shopping, you can make 3.5, and much better than that if you'll, get some professional help. And so, yeah, that's a big mistake.
So, but I would assume that when you sit down with when you sit down with a client, maybe for the first time, this is that comfort feeling that they have. They just know that if they have a problem that comes up, they've got a solution sitting in the bank. So what do you tell a person that comes in and has maybe that $200,000 that's not working for them at all? What do you tell them that they can do and still give them that level of comfort?
Yeah. First of all, I would define what an emergency fund really is with you and your spouse, or you and your family. What is, hey, this is the amount of cash that we need sitting in our bank account to where if, a basic something happens to our home, our car, we can just take care of it, not have to worry about anything. Second of all, $200,000, it's probably too much for emergency fund for about anybody.
Right.
Unless you're a multi-billionaire.
We see it all the time.
But yes, we do.
I'm scared of the market.
Yep.
I don't, so I'm sitting on,
But that's exactly where I would talk to someone and say, hey, well, let's go and get with, for example, $200,000. Hey, let's put $50,000 into money market. Let's get that working for you. And then let's ladder some CDs. So we get some income rolling from that money, best rate available, and have some fixed income, and just open a brokerage account or individual account for that person. Like, hey, let's at least get the best rate we can with still some liquidity. So you have $50,000 still you can get your hands on in a day. And then that rest of the money really is...
How long does it take me to get my hands on the rest of the money, Mark?
Yeah.
How long does it take?
Well,
I want to break up my 150,000 of CDs.
A brokered CD ladder. Okay, for example, if you go to the bank, you're going to have to pay fees if you break a CD. If a brokered CD, so if you're working with someone that has access to a brokered CD, you can buy and sell CDs anytime. So usually it takes about a day. So that's the good thing if you want CDs, but also want some liquidity. The brokerage side of CDs are really helpful for that.
So go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I'm just being a client.
Yeah.
So if I needed to break all that up and get my 200,000,
Yeah.
it'll take about 2 days to get my money.
Yep. Probably
I think that's, I think you're exactly
after
right.
it settles. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to wait till it settles.
Yeah.
But most people don't understand that.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, because when you say the word CD, I'm not in this industry. When I hear the word CD, I think bank. I just immediately
Right.
think bank.
Right.
And I also think, okay, I buy or whatever, commit my money to a CD. It's 6 months, it's 9 months, it's 12 months, it's 2 years, it's whatever term I selected, but that's not my money anymore. Yes, it is, but it's, I can't touch it.
yeah.
It's locked up.
Or if I need to touch it, I'm going to pay some kind of fees.
Yeah,
there's
right.
going to be some kind of ramifications from me taking that money
and there
early.
could be if we would sell that CD and, for example, something happens with interest rates right afterwards, and let's say it could go either way. You could sell the CD for more, or you could sell it for less because you're selling it on the market.
We have never sold a CD yet that didn't come out positive because you get paid the interest up to the day.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
include the interest,
Interest,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. And normally the loss is like
$10.
on
Yeah.
say a $100,000 CD is like $10
Yeah.
that we'll lose, but they get all the interest up to that date. So they're really, really good. And when Mark and I look at CDs, we're not looking at, a 3 month, 6, 9, 12, 2 year, 5 year, let's say. We're looking at those, but there's 20 banks that we can choose from. So we're taking care of grandma driving around town to all the banks to find out what their CD rates are, which is, shopping CDs. We do that shopping for them.
Which is nice, and that actually, since we're talking about CDs, the most negative thing I think about CDs sometimes is the auto renewal the banks do to people if you're not on top of it,
Right.
And they get you into something a lot worse rate. The brokerage side, they don't automatically renew. I automatically renew a lot of our people's because I go and buy the next best rate. But I'm saying, like, there's nothing.
They're not going to automatically get
No.
moved from
Right.
that
No.
introductory 4% that they got down to a renewed 1.5%.
Right.
Yes, that is not happening.
And we seldom, it's seldom when we renew a CD for a client, seldom is it the same bank again.
No, almost never.
Yeah. It's generally, there's another bank will have a better rate. And people need to understand that why do rates do that? Why do banks have different rates? It's their need for money. It's their need for capital. Hey, we've got a big loan going out on, we need capital. Let's do a tickler rate that's a little better than everybody else. So
And then the other thing I'd say is when we're talking about sit down cash and CDs we talked about, but we also treasury bonds, municipal bonds. Those all can fit into different people's puzzles as well. So, and we have full access to those and can buy them straight up instead of having to buy bond funds, which is nice.
right, and we do not like bonds. We do not like bond funds, but for fixed rate, we like individual bonds that have a maturity rate that's guaranteed to be at a certain point.
Yep.
So, as we kind of wrap this first one up, I think the key takeaway here is if you're setting on money just for the sake of having it there in case of an emergency, or it's what makes you feel good, there are alternatives that will still do that, but maybe get you 4, 5, 10 times the money you're making in that checking account or in that savings account. So definitely get out and check that out.
Do we have time to cover one more thing that
Absolutely.
I think is the true source of why people don't use brokerage accounts or investment accounts for their savings and their CDs? Once, and this is a mental block that Mark and I talk with people about, once people put money into a brokerage account, they consider it gone.
Yep.
And so that's invested, we're not going to touch it. Now, the money in the bank we'll touch. And, brokerage accounts can have a checkbook with them. It can have help me, it's not a credit card. What do you call it?
Just a debit card.
A debit card. We can move money into their account and out of their account for them. They're fantastic. But people have to learn to look at those investment accounts as liquid money, as opposed to, oh, I gave it to Mark and Bob and it's gone.
Yeah, it is. A brokerage account is not a retirement account,
right?
And people tend to forget about that. I will say that, as you were saying that, I was thinking about some own personal experiences with my family, and it is just a concern of they don't understand it.
Right.
It's not a complicated issue, but with their money, they think of money in the bank and nothing beyond it, because they just don't understand that part of it.
And that's how we were raised. And as the years go by, maybe 50 years from now, that won't be an issue. But all the time, Mark and I have to go, just think of your money that you're putting into that account. It's your money, and you need to spend it. That's okay.
Yeah.
And a healthy client is a client in our opinion, when they put that money into a brokerage account, that they don't look at it as gone, that they look at it as, hey, we bought a new car, we need $50,000 out of that account.
Yep. Well, let's move on to mistake number 2, which we've kind of already tipped our toe into, and that's overcomplicating it. So, as we just talked about, sometimes people are thinking just beyond the bank becomes too complicated, but you can take it a lot further and overcomplicate it as well.
Oh yeah. We we were talking about this yesterday a little bit with people, especially right now, is trying to chase trends or chase a home run because you hear something from some news article or read something, and you get on your, there's so many things accessible, your Robinhood account, your whatever, any of your online brokerages from your phone, and you're like, I'm going to put, $150 into this, penny stock that I heard's going to the moon, and instead of just keeping it simple.
Yeah. And I don't know that there's a better example of this than Bitcoin. You think about the crypto, and when that first came out, you heard about people that would buy pizzas and it might cost 3, or 4 of those that are now worth,
$78,000.
Right. So, and so you hear of these people that became multi-billionaires overnight, and it's hard not to want to think about that, maybe catch that next wave.
Yeah, we all, it's and that's the education process that people need to understand. And especially young people with Robinhood now, because what they're trying to do is take one deep. I got a grandson that's 18, and he has a Robinhood account, and he's trying to hit one deep. And I'm just letting him do it because it's showing him that that doesn't work, and timing doesn't work. But people need to understand that equity markets move up and down. It's part of the healthy system of capitalist money, the fluidity of equity, and they have to understand that and invest for the long term. And
to give our baseball analogy here, there's so many people always just looking to hit a home run and they're swinging every time. They're swinging for the fences every single time. Whereas there's some other person your age that's just hitting a single every time at bat.
Yep.
And they're investing into companies or ETF, whatever it is.
Yep.
And they're investing into something that has solid financials, that has, proven track records. And they're hitting that every time. They're doing that every month. They've automated it. They're sit and forget. And maybe you do hit that home run 10 years later. That person's already ahead of you maybe 2 times by that point, because they've already just been hitting single after single.
Yeah, you can't look at the equity markets as Kansas lottery or as Bitcoin and we all want to hit a home run, and that would be really, really cool. The amount of people that got wealthy off of Apple stock is incalculable. But how did they get wealthy off Apple stock? They either received it as part of their employment, or they bought it and they sat on it. They didn't trade it in and out and and jumping, doing those.
They weren't
things.
chasing a trend.
They weren't getting complicated. They owned it for a long period of time.
And beyond, the type of investment, there's also other ways to complicate things. You already kind of mentioned having automation, so making sure that you're consistent. That takes some complication out. But what about somebody that just has like a lot of different accounts out there and it's just complicated?
Yeah. Say you're someone that's jumped from job to job. You have 401ks, your simples. You have all over the place. You have a little bit of money here and there and here and there. Well, you should get that working for you, maybe in one account that hopefully that you can control. A lot of times, for example, if you have a 401k and it doesn't have a certain amount of money in it, they might flat fee you, and they might draw that thing down to zero if you're not paying attention to it. And we see that a lot with 403bs, where if you're not paying attention to it, all of a sudden, if you don't have $100,000 in this, we're gonna have a $15 flat fee every month. Well, that's a pretty high percentage all of a sudden in a small account, and all of a sudden that counts to zero, and you didn't pay attention.
That brings up a really good point, and something that I hadn't really thought about. But in today's day and age, people do change jobs a lot.
Yeah.
That's just part of the nature of employment now in the United States. And if you leave those behind, fees can really be high in a 401k. And sometimes you don't have a choice. You get the match, it's worth it. You definitely want to do it, but sometimes the fees can be high. If you leave that place and you've left behind a chunk of money and it's just sitting there, those fees can really devour it. And there are way better places for that.
Yeah, and especially let's say you put all this money in a 401k or your company did, and you never did anything with it, and that's actually not sitting in any investments. It's just sitting in cash. Well, what's your fee gonna? Your fee's just you're gonna have nothing in a pretty short amount of time.
Yeah.
And we're all like, how does that happen? But that does happen. So try to get all that money together into a rollover IRA or something where you can control, or roll over into your current 401k if your plan allows it. Those are all good strategies if you have money kind of sitting around different places.
Well, and rollover, that's a key phrase too, because obviously if you take that money and just put it into your bank account, you're going to pay, well, depending on your age, you might have to pay a fee, but you're also going to have to pay taxes, which kind of rolls right into mistake number 3, which is ignoring taxes.
Yes. And I think a lot of people are not thinking long term when it comes to taxes. They're not thinking about a strategy. For example, I know tons of people my age that are not taking advantage of a Roth, either in their 401k or outside, which you should be hopefully doing both if you can. And getting that money while you're young in there before you're making too much money or whatever the case. I think that's a huge tax solution that can be really helpful in your later years if you take advantage early.
And Bob, I'm going to ask you this question before I do. It's always good to remember that every situation is different and there's no one answer for everybody. It really depends on your situation. But you were in this industry before Roths were a thing. And then, of course, Roths came in, and I was very lucky that when I started investing, Roths were there, and I took advantage of that. But I remember when I was thinking about, okay, traditional or Roth, which way do I go? It was more about, I made the decision based on my age. I'm young, I should take the Roth option. That kind of dominated early, didn't it? Was more based on your age.
You were early on the Roth. I remember you asked me one time when we were just getting to know each other. You asked me that question, and I gave you you ought to be doing the tax free, because the theory being at that point in time in your life you weren't at the top of your pay scale. And,
right.
Roths are fantastic. Another point Mark said about young people. People in their 50s or their 60s that are going into retirement need to set up a strategy with their advisor to maybe convert if they haven't been eligible, or if they have a large sum of traditional money, of converting that at the tax rate. Because when you turn 73 and you have to start pulling money, there are a whole bunch of places that Uncle Sam wants to grab at you from. Yeah. Meaning the IRMA, the subsidy or the payment to Medicare, all those things. So you want to have a professional that can help you manipulate and get ready for that in the most efficient tax method possible.
I would, as what little bit of research I've done as I've gotten older now, I would say that age argument has changed a little bit, and more people that are, my age, mid-50s, are now even still focused on Roth because it offers, we found, so much more than just tax savings. There's flexibility, there's legacy giving, there's all kinds of things that make that so attractive. One of them you just mentioned. Roths can help you stay out of that next tier of IRMA, which is the surcharge on Medicare, by pulling from Roths instead of traditionals. There's so much flexibility that Roths give you that it makes it a really good
If you
option.
can do them up front, you bet. Now, sometimes converting doesn't make sense, but as years go by, it's for the 55 to 65-year-old or to 70-year-old, depending on their, how much they have. That can certainly be a method to help them.
But we go back to the mistake that people are making is ignoring those taxes. By not taking advantage of Roth, they might be getting, some tax savings up front, but boy, they're going to pay the piper down the road potentially.
Yes, you're going to have large RMDs. You're going to have a lot of money in that traditional account that's locked up for, until you can take them when the time comes. You want to have a strategy with taxes, especially before retirement, but really it can begin early to have a good, creating these buckets of different types of money to be able to use when you get older.
And I'm going to take it one step further. This is, probably not for this show specifically, but I'm really focused on legacy right now. And when I think about a Roth versus a traditional and the changes that were made with Secure 2.0, your heirs only get 10 years to withdraw that money after you pass, after they inherit it. And if it hasn't been taxed yet, and hopefully most of us will pass away in our later years, well, you're giving that to your kids at their highest money-making time frame in their late 40s, early 50s, maybe just before they retire, and now they're having to pull that out on top of their salaries, and they're literally getting taxed at the highest amounts. Whereas a Roth, they still have to take it out within 10 years, but they don't at least have to deal with the taxes piece of that.
Absolutely important, because nowadays we're starting to see people lose their parents in their 60s when they're already retired and pulling money out, and that can get crazy.
Yeah.
And people are living longer. Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about mistake number 4, and that's lifestyle creep. Now, this is one that it's not just constricted to 2026. We might be taking a 2026 approach, but lifestyle creep, that's something that's happened for decades.
I do think, but I will say more and more as the social media age rages on, the algorithms that we're on, I think lifestyle creep becomes just harder and harder for people to deal with. Every time you get on your phone and you watch your algorithm of things you like, that you're like, oh, well, this person has this.
I'll have half of those.
Or yeah, I want that. Or I mean, it's legitimately giving you dopamine of all the things that you want, and all the things that look cool to you are getting shoved in your face 24/7. And a lot of that sometimes is going to be all of a sudden you're going to start comparing yourself to others, or saying you need certain things to keep up with your neighbor next door that got the cool golf cart, whatever. But I think lifestyle creep is really, really tough, especially for people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, that they see, I don't know.
They have
you think there's
discretionary income.
Yes.
And I can get that sauna.
Yep.
For $197.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm telling on myself here. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's only $197. The Y doesn't have the sauna anymore. I'll buy it. It's great. I've used it 3 times. It's great though. It is great when I use it. But that's one of those. I'm looking at. Oh yeah, I'll take one of those.
Yep.
Yeah. And you're not saying don't enjoy life. You're not saying don't buy the things that make you happy. It's have a plan.
Yeah.
Have a budget. Use your discretionary spending as it's meant to be used, and don't take it to the point where you're, taking advantage, or you're, buying the things today that make you feel great, but are going to leave you short come retirement
Well,
time frame.
the thing I think about people my age is homes and vehicles. I mean, there's so many times where you feel like you have to build, we got to build a house. Everybody, my age, we got to build a house for our whole family. And then that's great if you can afford that and you do it right. But a lot of times that just leaves you cash poor. Whereas,
House
maybe
rich,
just
cash poor.
I redo portion the house that's bothering you. I don't know. And it's a wrong there's a right answer for everybody, but I just think that, or like, hey, we need the brand new vehicle because we got touted around another kid, when maybe there's another solution to buy a used car, or I don't know. I just think that nowadays there's so many mistakes that we make from buying the new because everybody else has it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When you're hitting creep too, think of all the monthlies we pay.
Oh yeah.
I just got a bill this month on my credit card. I see $79.95, and it was for milepost.
Mile split. Yeah.
Mile split, which is great.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
No.
Yeah. I don't need it anymore.
You could share mine. You could
yeah.
share all of our
Right,
our coaches one if you want to.
The whole if people would do this 1 month out of the year, I think we could cure a lot of problems. If people would put their credit cards in a drawer and turn their phones off for a month, off social media for a month, every year, 1 month, and I think their expenses would go down unbelievably, if they just use cash
Yeah.
and walked
Oh,
around
yeah.
for a month, because then you start going, whoa. Of course, a lot of places don't take cash.
Yeah.
Well,
And I'll give a personal story real quick. The turning point in my financial life was the time that I got a huge raise because I got a new job, and I thought, finally, I'm not going to live paycheck to paycheck. And a month later, I was still living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And it was lifestyle creep. And at that time, my wife and I sat down and said, enough's enough. And we budgeted. And all we did for that first month was track every penny we spent. We identified where the problem was, and it was the biggest change in my financial
Game
life.
changer, yeah.
It was.
Yep.
And if everybody would do that, just take a month, track your expenses, and then budget after that, you would be shocked what it'll do for you.
I have one funny story for we talk about your reoccurring payments, blah, blah, blah. I listen to this guy on a podcast, and he always talks about how he likes to go out, to the bars and whatever, and he's really happy. Once a year, he usually forgets his credit card or debit card at the bar. He loses it. He said that's the best thing for him financially every year, because then he has to get a new card, and all of his subscriptions, all of them get cut off, and he realizes which ones aren't there anymore. And he's like, it's the best thing ever. It's like, so there's a strategy for you. Just lose your credit card or debit card.
I'm seriously considering that, actually. Huh. All right, well, let's go on to mistake number 5, because we're about out of time here. Delaying investing. I've said it. You guys have all said it. Time in the market, way more important than timing the market. The earlier you can get started, the better.
Yeah. There's, people are scared to jump in at all-time highs. They're scared, they're going to wait for a huge dip, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, just automate the process or have someone do that for you. But, you can dollar cost average over time, have an investing strategy where you're not trying to hit home runs. You're being consistent every day, hitting singles, and that's going to compound, and you're going to create growth.
Amen.
Yeah, and the younger, the better. If you're listening to this and you're in your late teens, early 20s, whatever it might be, start now. It doesn't have to be a lot. Just start. And then if you're more my age or even Bob's age, talk to your kids, your grandkids. Get them started early. Get them to the point where it becomes a habit, because it's just the miracle of compound interest is just overwhelming. And if you can get them started early, it's amazing what you can do for yourself or a child or a grandchild if they start early.
Yeah, and find a way to make it engaging and fun for your kid to get involved in the market. Like I love the idea of like creating a match. Like have your kid open a brokerage account, when an individual brokerage account for them, that you're control over, and say, hey, any money that you put into here, I'm going to match, or I'm going to match whatever 50%, whatever it is. But like find a way to where it's like, oh, I'm going to get money from, this is going to benefit me if I put this money in here. I'm going to get more. Find a way to make it engaging, make it fun, make it something that they're interested in.
That is so true. And
My teacher's coming out. I'm sorry.
yeah, well, matching your kids, if a kid mows a yard for $40, and you say to the kid, you can go do whatever you want with that $40, but if you give it to me, I'm gonna add $40 to it. Or if you give me half of it, I'll turn your 20 back into 40, and you can go to Casey's and buy candy. Whatever you will get them engaged, and then when you show them what that money's done, and the money's going to grow like crazy because you've doubled it, and they're going to go, hey, you put $120 in here this summer, and it's worth $240, and that kid goes, oh, can I spend that on candy? Yeah, but if you leave it in there, it's going to be better.
Yeah, lots of great things you can do. Definitely an educational process, or can be, but those are the mistakes that we're going to cover today. 5 mistakes that people are making in 2026. We hope that you've enjoyed the episode. Once again, if you want to learn more about what Mark and Bob can do for you, we'd invite you to go to schwartzinvestmentpartners.com. Their contact information is there. You can learn more about them, and they would be happy to help you. Thumbs up, subscribe. We hope you can join us at our next episode. Until then, have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.